Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this cabinet meeting on the 1st of April. Just have one apology for absence from the Councillor Bees. Item 2 is declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members of officers? No, thank you. Item 3 is minutes of the last meeting. We have 2 sets of minutes, one on pink papers. Is Cabinet happy that both of those sets of minutes represent an accurate record of the last meeting? Agreed. Chair's announcements. Obviously, this is the last meeting, cabinet meeting of this term. So I'd just like to thank every single member of the cabinet for their work over the past 4 years, whether you've been sat around the table for all of those 4 years or joined slightly more recently. Your work hasn't gone unnoticed, so it requires a huge number of hours and a great amount of dedication. So thank you very much for all your efforts on that front. We have a short agenda this evening. My side have made a commitment to not engage in any electioneering tonight, so we know that there's a certain event happening in a month's time. We just ask that opposition colleagues stick to the items on the agenda and engage with the substance, as you've done extremely well over these 4 years. I think that the cabinet we've had some really constructive and productive discussions about the topics that were and the policy proposals that we've been considering. And I've always regarded them as the best meetings that I've engaged with over these past 4 years in the cabinet, and for that to be as long as so. Thank you for your contributions on that front. I'm going to ask Councillor Malcolm Longley just to give us a brief update on the council's financial position as the books closed on the financial year yesterday.
Fine, thank you, Chair. I'm sure you all want to know how we're going to end up. Right, well, we now completed the 4th quarter, as you're all well aware, and it's typically in the 4th quarter you tend to get an improving position because people who've the budgets now, sort of feeling towards the end of it, and so where people have stacked things away for rainy days and things tend to come out. So that's proving to be the case in all of the directorates under our control, and with the exception of the children's directorate, all the others are doing very well, going in the right direction. And so the upshot of it is that I strongly expect to be able to balance these books this year. That will mean that we're doing that without going to the general reserve funds, of course. It's very important. So the happy news is, folks, that we've balanced the books for the last 4 years. I'd also like to thank everybody that was involved in the pension fund, and Keith over there. Is Keith here somewhere? Oh, there you go. As for example, because it's a cross-party thing, and the pension fund has gone extremely well as well. That's gone from less than 100% covered when we kicked off. It's now 165% covered, which is very great deal of money when you think we're talking 3.8 billion. So it's very good. So good 4 years from WNC. Thank you all those that have assisted in doing so. Thank you, Chair.
And a specific personal thank you from me to you, Malcolm. You've standing down at the election in May, that you contributed a huge amount to public life in Northamptonshire over the years that you've been a councillor, firstly at Northamptonshire County Council, where you had a pretty sizable job to do when you took over the reins as finance portfolio holder. And certainly your steady hand on the tiller at WNC has stood us in exceptionally good stead these past 4 years. And without you, I think I and the previous leader would be far worse off in terms of our grip and our understanding of the finances, because you brought a huge amount of expertise and a real commitment to the task that you've undertaken. And I think we all recognise that you're here not out of necessity, purely by choice, and because of the commitment to the community that you've been elected to represent. And I just wanted that to be noted in this last meeting of cabinet, and to thank you very sincerely for the work you put in these past few years. So thank you, Michael.
You'll be quite embarrassed.
And there's one further thank you and farewell, which I'll hand over to Councillor Gold.
Oh yeah, thank you, Leader. I just wanted to make a point of mentioning Sally Burns, And it's Sally's last meeting with us here in Northamptonshire before she goes off to launch in Birmingham, which is going to be a big challenge, isn't it? But I just wanted to acknowledge your work here, Sally. I think public health has become very strong under your leadership here in West Northants, and as we've talked about a lot of times, I think that thread that we talked about at the very beginning runs across all of our portfolios and all areas of the council in a very strong way. So thank you for your work, and we wish you well. Thank you, Sam.
Item 6 is the call from the overview and scrutiny committee, if any. There is none tonight. So we move on to item 7, which is the adoption of the local cycling and walking plans for Beckley, Daventry and Toaster. And just note that I skipped over item 5, which was urgent business, but luckily there wasn't any. So straight over to you, Councillor.
Don't appear to be working.
Sorry, Madam Chairman. Thank you for inviting me to present this item, which is basically asking or seeking Cabinet's approval for the adoption of the Brackley, Daventry and Toaster local cycling and walking infrastructure plans. I won't say that again, but they're more commonly known as LC WIPs. And first of all, can I thank all the officers and consultants who've been involved in producing these documents. It's been some time they've been some time in the making, and they're most welcome. And I particularly like to thank Esme Cushing for all the work that she's put in, sitting through numerous workshops with consultants and groups, various different groups. So yeah, thank you to Esme for bringing us this far. In March, our last meeting, and the meeting of the council, the local transport plan for West Northamptonshire was adopted, and that sets out our transport vision to 2045. The local transport plan, better known as the LTP, is based around 3 overarching themes: connecting people better, shaping healthier places, and mobility enabling prosperity, with 6 objectives and 16 policy areas. LC WIPs for Brackley, Daventry, Northampton and Toaster are identified within the LTP as supporting strategies, and the schemes within them are identified as key interventions to be delivered over the period of the LTP. We are intending to go out to consultation on the draft Northampton LC WIP in June, but today we have before us those for Brackley, Daventry and Toaster. In 2017, Chair, the government published the first cycling and walking investment strategy, which identified LC WIPs as a new strategic approach to identifying cycling and walking improvements required at a local level. Very high strategic developments. LC WIPs consider where people live and work and how areas will grow in the future to identify desire lines for movements by active modes of transport. By comparing this to existing provision, the plans identify a network map and a prioritised list of proposals to address the missing links and where provision needs to be approved. The plans will guide local cycling and walking improvements over the next 10 years. Through stakeholder engagement, we have focused on the development of the LC WIPs on the main towns, while also recognising the desire for villages to link to their nearest service centre. And I think you would notice in the various documents, the connectivity of nearby villages to towns, and perhaps on a wider network between, say, Brackley, Silverstone, Toaster, Silverstone, etc. Although producing an LC whip is not mandatory, authorities who have LC whips are best placed to make the case for future investment to Active Travel England. They can support negotiations with developers for improvements that they have to make. Stakeholder engagement and consultation was a key part of the LC whip process, just as it was for the LTP that we discussed last month. For each LC whip, 3 workshops were undertaken with internal and external stakeholders, including local members. Stakeholders were encouraged to feedback throughout the process. Consultation was held between the 15th of January and the 25th of February 2024 through an online questionnaire and copies that were in libraries. The key headline response rates were that practically we had 418 responses and 64% supported the LT whip overall. For Daventry, we had 249 responses, 62% supported the LC whip overall. And for Toaster, we had 167 responses, 67 supported the LC whip overall. So a very positive outcome to the consultation. Changes to the documents have been made in light of the comments received. For example, removing any references to specific schemes, such as the one-way on Manor Road in Brackley, where instead we have made reference to an option study we're currently undertaking. Other changes made include removing reference to traffic management changes in High Street Brackley and any reference to parking charges. Changes were also made following National Highways comments to make any proposals interacting with the strategic road network less prescriptive, and additional clarification within the document that further engagement consultations will take place as individual schemes are developed. So there's still, Mr. Chairman, a lot of consultation to take place, both formal and statutory. For example, if there's TROs involved, there's a process that has to be adopted there. But in general, there will be further engagement, consultation on individual schemes, as I say, as they come forward. The adoption of the documents has been delayed to follow the adoption of the local transport plan, which sets the wider policy context. So it's right that these policies that sit below the LTP come on once that has been adopted, which it now has. With regard to future funding, there is limited funding available for active travel. So there is a need to go through a prioritisation process. This will be based on feedback on local priorities from the consultation, as well as other factors such as deliverability, the relative potential for the scheme to increase walking and cycling trips, the population it will directly serve, whether it meets other objectives outlined in the local transport plan, and whether there is no match funding, etc. We are using the Department of Transport Capability Fund and the recently announced Consolidated Active Travel Fund grants to start to undertake feasibility designs on key corridors identified within the LC whips. I'm happy, Mr. Chairman, to present these LC whips for adoption.
Thank you, Councillor. Now, there are 4 speakers on this paper: Councillors Squires, Purser, Holder, Mayor, and Randall.
Few points on our group and there are a couple of questions. So we look back really on the very slow process really of the LC Groups. When Daventry first had a stakeholders workshop back in May 22. And we heard from Councillor Arab, Northampton's obviously actually completed consultations in June. We did have a briefing last February, but again, that was poorly attended. So, although the LC Groups are to work with, and we do work with it, it's a very comprehensive document, and this will hopefully unlock some funding. In our view, there's been a distinct lack of communication really to residents about the benefits of active travel. And over the last 4 years, we haven't really actually delivered much in the way of cycle tracks. I know we did one in Delapre, but in the rural areas, the cycle path between Braunston and Daventry is still incomplete. And when we had only 2 councillors out of 93 take up the invitation to attend an active travel England Day in Coventry, it shows to us that most members actually appear uninterested in encouraging their residents to be more active and therefore healthier. All this helps reduce pollution, helps reach our net zero targets and improve public rail in our towns. So my point being is, are we really serious about this, or as a council, or are we just paying lip service? This is a tick in the box and we can find 760 pages on a shelf somewhere. My question then relates to how much of this will we actually see? The document talks about unlocking potential funding, but with everything else going on nationally, are there actually funds available for this type of work? But realistically, is there any chance of us seeing it change? And what timescales have we talked about? You talked about over the next 10 years, but when are we going to make the start on this? And finally, the last question is, where does this move us on the active travel scale? The presentation that I saw, see we're at level 1. Are we going to level 2? What is our aim and ambition as a council to be on this active travel scale? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Coulson.
Really follow on what Carl was saying. I said myself with his comments. Also, to thanks Leslie Cushing for her excellent work. I've been at some of the workshops she's been involved in. I think she's done a super job. There's a lot of detail here, a lot of local involvement has gone on. It has been going on for some while. So I really want to ask Phil, have you made provision within budgets in this coming year and in future years to implement the active travel things? And if so, how much is that? And are we going to see the test of this document is not how many pages we approve as a cabinet, it's how many, how much footpath, how much joined up cycle track do we have going through the area? That's the real test of this document. And in order for that to happen, we do need an allocated budget that could be phased in the coming period of time. So I really want to know how much money he has allocated in his budget towards active travel. Thank you.
I did, obviously we haven't got any Labour councillors in South Northampton, so I did ask a few residents if they've got any thoughts on it, and they have got concerns with how bridleways cut across the A43. They're worried about bridleways and byways being lost, and they did quote one, and it was Which moving along. The Broadway SB 32 is currently under an extinguishment order due to the AL3 development planning, which was reserved matters passed last week, and because there are objections, it's going to the Secretary of State. This Broadway is an important link between the west side of Toaster Ward and the villages of the ward. The planning makes no provision to divert, just extinguish, and therefore ancient byway will be lost. So that was, you know, and I don't know the area, I don't know that, so, you know, you probably will. There's also, looking at Daventry, I mean, the biggest thing in Daventry we've got is lack of drop curves. So I've sent some emails in today, I've got disabled people saying that actually they can't go the curves. And it's a long way round, and is there anything that we can do, just sort of like, they're saying, we'll just put a bit of tarmac on, so I can just get off the pavement. Because it's not the fact that people just park in front of the drop curves, it's the fact that there are no drop curves. Subways, when flooded, I see there's, what do they call it, a bus. They're putting some sort of barrier across a junction at Beck Drive and Shackleton Junction I'd read it that only buses would be allowed down that route to stop traffic coming up from Northern Way. Well, that end keeps being flooded and the road keeps being shut off. So then how are people supposed to get along that road and get children to school? I see also note that High Street is to become pedestrianised. Everybody that I spoke to when we were looking at plans were against that. So, you know, I think that the consultation hasn't been local enough. I know when some consultations we've done, we've actually had members of the council coming along to the town council or going to parish council meetings and actually really talking about what is going to happen. So then we've been able to feed that out. That would be, you know, really useful to do. So, but for me, active travel, even if you can't even get off the curb, is not very active. And, you know, I've got concerns that, as again, we've got lots of things going on in there. And what sort of budget have we got to put these things right? Obviously, there are a few junctions and pedestrian crossings. Again, I had somebody come to me last week to say that actually they couldn't even get across the zebra crossing in a wheelchair because it's got so many potholes in it, they're now having to walk along the side of the road. So, you know, the state of our roads are bad, they're full of potholes. You see scooters going on Northampton all the time on the pavements, and that's because they're safer than they are to travel on the road. So, you know, we've got to get the basics right first. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Randall. You do have one councillor in South Northampton, by the way. You've got Councillor Shell, actually.
Sorry, so.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I mean, I think this has perhaps been a long time coming. But you have to consider where we were 4 years ago. We hadn't got the staff, we hadn't got the resources, we've had to start basically from scratch. We've had one person, or did have one person on her own, trying to pull all this together, work with consultants, undertake consultation on 3 different documents in 3 different areas spread across West Northamptonshire. So, you know, I do thank Esme for all her work, but we now have a full team and we're able to move things forward. Yes, it has taken time, Carl, I accept that, but again, we didn't want to start adopting LC whips. Well, we still hadn't adopted the local transport plan that has been quite quick in coming around from when we started. With regard to delivery, yes, we are serious. We have actually delivered one scheme in Northampton at the junction of Rushmere Road and Billy Road East. There are further proposals to extend that around the Appleton Park vicinity, and we are working very much on the details of that scheme that has actually been funded through Active Travel England. So that will The details of that will be coming forward this summer, and we will be progressing that scheme. As councillor Person knows, as a ward councillor, we have had several meetings about that and how we're taking it forward. So, that is very much on the agenda, and we are definitely serious. And our aim and ambition was to ensure connectivity. And I think, as I've said before, we don't have connectivity of cycle routes across West Northamptonshire. You take Northampton, you've got a cycle route that goes to nowhere in many instances, it's just not connected. Panatone Park, I've talked about in the past, great cycling facilities put in by the developer. We've got to connect that up so that there is that connectivity in that active travel mode facilities to get people backwards and forwards. And there's a lot of that to look at as well as looking to, for example, connecting the Brampton Valley Way to Brixworth Country Park. Okay, we've had some lights put in at the developer's expense, but there's still work to do to improve that cycle way, walking way, wheeling way between the Brampton Valley Way and the Country Park. So there's still a lot to do, but things slowly coming together on that, and we are working on it. And we're working very much with North Northamptonshire on the routes between Northampton, Weyborough, Kettering, etc. As I say, we have the staffing. We are now able to start working up schemes, and we will be, as I say, got funds for the Abington scheme to continue, which is quite a big scheme. It's going to take some time, but we will now start working up the schemes that are in the LC and submitting bids for funding for those as they come to fruition. Again, there's a lot of consultation that's to take place on the detail. I think Wendy referred to certain things in Daventry. What's in these LC which is what's the desire. We've still got to go through detailed consultation on each scheme and consultation on the implications of the proposals in here and how they affect the town centres, etc., etc. The A43, yes, there are problems with the A43. I accept that. However, we have got the HS2 overbridge just outside Brackley. That is being built to a specification that enables a cycleway across it. So, we've got that, and we can use that to deliver a cycleway between Brackley and Sills, which is important. But I accept what you say, that there are issues, particularly with regard to accessing Whitfield and places like that on the other south side of the carriageway. So those are still to be looked at. And you talked about Toaster, and I personally think as an authority we've missed a trick, because really we shouldn't have people going across lights at the Toad roundabout to access major employment sites. We should have had or required the developers to build a bridge across the A43 to enable people to easily get to those employment sites from Toaster itself. But we know that's an issue. It comes up regularly at the local access forum, and we're working very closely with the members of that forum to try and see what we can sort out. That bridleway is a major bridleway. The access forum is dead against its closure, and we're obviously looking to see what we can do. I think, and lastly, you mentioned potholes on crossings. Well, I've come across potholes on crossing, and Nick may want to comment on this, but they are very, very speedily addressed when reported. I've actually reported some in the morning following a complaint the night before, and they've been filled by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We do take potholes on zebra crossings and light control crossings very, very seriously because of the implications for people in wheelchairs, people in disabled buggies, people with pushchairs, and they are one of the top priorities for attention. So, if you're seeing them or hearing about them, clearly they're not being invoiced, but I don't know if Nick wants to say anything about that, but other than that, Chair, I encourage Cabinet to adopt the LC whips for Brackley, Daventry and Toaster. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Ladd. Do any members of the cabinet wish to highlight any parts of the report? Councillor Baker.
I'm sure you know that I'm going to put a plea in for bikeways. When, many years ago, when the large development at Toaster originally came to South Northants Council, they did close a bridleway that went through that development, because I remember being told at the time that they could come through the estate and past the shops, which I'm not sure any of them actually ride a horse, because that probably wouldn't be an ideal option for anybody to do. But we are losing bridleways all of the time now. We do have a large, especially in this area, a large number of our residents who have horses, children as well as adults. And it would be sad if we had any more bridleways that close. We need to keep them open because that's an activity that they will take part in. Thank you.
Yeah, can I thank for those comments, and I agree. But bridleways tend to be looked after and overseen by the local access forum. And all I can say is that's a very active forum. They're very on the ball. And I think the chairman comes from Toaster and is very familiar with South Northamptonshire area. And she doesn't let anything go easily. And yes, you're right. We have lost bridleways. The development in Northampton, King's Heath, Spencer, up there by Holston Firs, there's issues there with the loss of bridleways, but we're working to overcome it so that the outcome is fair for everybody. But yes, I do agree that we've got to be careful that we need to ensure that we maintain the right supply when we come across development. And the problem with the A43, when the A43 is delivered, many bridleways and footpaths were severed and they've never been put back. So that is an issue, and it's not one that's dead in the literature.
Councillor Lister.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, very good plan, the LC whip. Note the points on Longbotany is our largest, one of our largest villages, gets to our second largest town in West Northamptonshire. Certainly as the Daventry urban extension comes along, I think this is a plan that we should do. The connection of the footpath to our station in Daventry is very much needed and wanted. Certainly the residents in Longbotany would like a path that goes to Daventry, and I'm sure that people of Daventry would like to be able to access the station quickly. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that is recognised and it was discussed at length at various workshops that we had on the Daventry LC whip. And we fully understand the need to connect for that connection to Longbotany station. But it's very, very difficult, particularly when you look at the three bridges around Buckley Wharf. How do you get through there, over there, under there, whatever? It is very, very difficult. It is very, very challenging, I think. But it's not, again, I did discuss this with a local member who advised me of a footpath that might be used to as a sort of alternative, if you like, to using those bridges. So it is, and that is being looked at. So, you know, it is an issue. We want to see that connectivity, but there are infrastructure issues to overcome to get to it.
Thank you. If there are no further comments, we've got 679 pages, with only one recommendation, which is to approve and adopt the LC whips. Is Cabinet agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Moving on now to Councillor Hallam, who's presenting the resident access strategy for 2025-29.
Thank you, Nina. There's an advert for well-known opticians, and it advertises a particular service that they offer when you don't have to go to their shops for an eye test. They'll come to you. And they particularly aim that at customers that might struggle to get to a physical store. The reason I mention it is I really like the slogan, and I'd quite like to pinch it, because it basically says, don't come to us, we'll come to you. And I think that applies to us and our customer services roadshows. It's one of the things I'm proudest of over the last 4 years. Because you don't need to come to our building, we will come to you, to your local library, the parish council, or your community centre. The sessions have been really popular and really successful. And what it's really demonstrated to us that as part of any future strategy, early engagement is critical. One of the things that you'll also see from the strategy moving forward is that we're going to continue to offer a whole variety of options and ways for customers to get in contact with us. So our roadshows will absolutely continue, but also web, phone, email, and yes, an introduction of AI for those people who are happy to get an answer for a chatbot. Not all are, but some certainly are. To have so many different ways of getting in touch is something we'll continue to do. And that's in an age where many major companies or organisations might only offer one or two options to get in touch. That could just be limited to the phone and email, or even less options than that. The strategy is a working document and we'll continue to develop it over the course of the next 4 years, including input, I hope, from opposition parties. I think we did it as well with the website revamp, so no reason why that should continue, not to continue. The strategy will also continue to reflect in offering multiple options and ways to pay. So yeah, we're going to continue to encourage new payment methods like Apple Pay. But very few companies out there offer the whole remit of payment options that we do. So yeah, we will still take a check, and yes, we will still take cash. We'll continue to communicate and engage with our residents in a whole variety of ways to engage them moving forward. Happy to present this strategy to you.
Thank you, Councillor Hallam. Same four speakers on the last paper, starting with Councillor Squires.
Thank you for the roadshow. They've gone down very well, and been very well received by the public. I think that's a very good initiative. There was some very good language in this document. You know, things like this first time resolution, multiple channels of access, talk about where the training staff, I think it's important. Then on that point, there's two things there I'd like to mention. Make sure they've got access to the right information to provide the answers. But also, it's not just your customer services staff that need to be customer focused, it's all the staff. So when customer services ask backroom people for an answer, they also respond quickly. There's nothing worse than customer services hanging on for the backroom staff. So train all your staff to be customer focused. Very good. Use of web forms. In my previous company, we found that very effective, and Councillor Planning was saying, you know, we need efficiency, we need productivity. That's a key one to be productive, you know, to increase the productivity for those people that can access them. Talk about reviewing processes. Great, you know, watch out for things like stupid rules that are coming in. Also, watch out for your consistency across the channel. There's nothing worse than the customer going online for something and then talking to somebody else and they're getting a different answer. So, you know, overall, I thought it was a good document. I have been asked to remind you of a motion passed by the council in July 2021, before my time. And it said the council resolves to review all of its services, review all of its service access points to ensure that individuals without internet are not being discriminated against. Ensure that there are always alternative means of access in addition to online access, and to criminal information. This is readily available and communicated to our residents. Retrain all of its workforce on quality matters to ensure that all groups are always considered regarding communications and access to services. I just want to really confirm that these points have actually been fully covered in the document. Thank you.
Well, I'll answer it away if that's okay. I really hope that what I said and all of the different ways to get in touch with us highlights that we're not discriminating against anyone, and we are offering different options, i.e. going to your local library. I'm really fascinated. I do have one question back with your indulgence, leader. What are the stupid rules? Is there some surprise coming out that I need to be aware of? I'm not aware of any, but that's not to say that government won't introduce.
No, it's just something when you're doing productivity is, you know, beware of the stupid rule, and getting the staff actually to come up with, we have to do it this way because this is what we're told to do. So this is something that as a manager you wouldn't find out, but when you ask the staff, and we get rid of the stupid rule that actually makes the process a lot more efficient, you'll find it quite effective. I'm glad I asked.
Thank you very much. And the monitoring officers just confirmed that staff are given refresher training on the relevant equalities legislation on an annual basis. Over to Councillor Person.
I want to really just focus on paragraph 781 and ask really, does this constitute an equalities impact assessment? This is something we've been raising throughout the lifetime of this council, that all our policies should be have an equalities impact assessment that goes through what the 2010 Equalities Act says that we should be doing. And there's a section 149 in that Act that says that we should evaluate what the actual likely effect on people with protected characteristics is, and those are age, disability, race and sexual orientation. And there are important reasons for that, because we are wanting to be eliminating discrimination, we are wanting to promote access, and we're wanting to promote good relations with all our communities. So I really want to ask, does in Mike's view, this paragraph meet our obligations under that Act? Because I really question whether it does.
Happy to answer that, because we've done a full and comprehensive equalities impact assessment, and a couple of the groups of protected characteristics that you didn't mention that we're extremely proud of in our care leavers and veterans. So we will always look after all of those protected groups. And if you look at what I said at the outset and how I took you through that, all of those different groups of people might have a preference to engage in a certain way. We know, for example, older people prefer face-to-face. So we're still offering face-to-face. We know that other people, younger people, prefer to pay on their mobile phone. We offer that as well. So I believe we've absolutely met that. And if you compare it to companies that you may deal with yourself, you know, in a personal capacity, think how hard it is to get hold of some of those companies, because some major companies now offer these really limited options of ways to get in touch with them. So it can just be limited to the phone, or worse still, not even the phone. You might only be able to engage digitally. We don't do that. We offer a whole range of options. We will still take a cheque, and we will still take cash.
Councillor Holland,
I welcome the commitment to face-to-face engagement, and as a former civil servant who worked for an organisation who closed all their inquiry centres in 2014, and basically you've only got two options, phones or online. I do welcome the fact that we are continuing to commit to face-to-face. I do have a question about the accessibility of the new face-to-face location in Northampton on the Hill, but we'll move on from that one. My key points are around about accurate information and timescales, because I'm aware, I'm a former civil servant, the number of calls that used to come through asking about timescales. And I think as part of this communication strategy, we do need to make sure that the whole entire department, the whole entire organisation, the whole entire council is aware of timescales in different sections, different departments. I recognise that there's various commitments into about timescales and reducing unnecessary contact. But it's really important that there is a central location that all staff can access, so they know that particular time delays, for example, with touching housing benefit, and we went through the stats on corporate review and scrutiny. We're aware that, you know, where our service level has been, where our target is, and where the reality is, so that
when the customer contacts us, member of the public, they're aware that, okay, I'll put this form in on this day, and I know that I'm not being given accurate information about when it's going to be dealt with. So just as a plea, that as part of that, we do make sure that we have that accurate information. Because, for example, when I look at the app, when I report fire tipping, you get a timescale for when it's going to be cleared. And I know full well that what I'm being told will happen isn't happening. So it's a bit misleading because that will prompt further access, further contact to us. Basically, querying something that being told by our app that actually it's not accurate because it doesn't reflect the actual timescale. So it's a plea for real-time information. So I know when we have a delay in a service, we get that information out as quick as possible. When we know we've got backlogs in a certain area, we make sure that people are aware of those backlogs and they're given a realistic timescale for the delivery of what they want dealt with. Yeah, every directorate has their own scorecard. We are actually working to publish service levels for all services to give a clear expectation. Timescales, I think, is an interesting one. I think we've done quite well with that in terms of in certain areas. So if you think about when you bring up, since we changed the contact centre system, when we've had a major incident, I think it was the Bridge Street fire, I might be wrong on that, but I think we put a proactive message in there to say that you will be, there's a delay, we're working, you don't need to ring us to tell us of the fire, we know what's going on. So we've got a much more robust system now in terms of the phones that can put out messages. Obviously, we've got the internet and stuff as well. So we can always do better, particularly as information these days, you find out about something before, because people are there in real time. People were putting photos of the Bridge Street fire on the internet, for example. So that'd be a very, very long electronic message.
And finally, Councillor Rabbit.
I think it really does depend on what area you're in, because if you're in Northampton and you go into the one-stop shop, you know, you've got a lot of staff there and things seem to be dealt with much quicker. If you go to Daventry, where they haven't got all those groups, if they can't get through to a department, then people have to leave and be told they'll have a follow-up email. So I don't know what the time expectation is on that, or whether staff are allowed to give them a time of when they will be expected to receive a response. I've been to the tip today, that's got its new opening times of 10 till 4, and I arrived there at 3:45 to find there was a queue of about 20 cars, and I'm thinking, am I going to get in there in time? And I got through the gate at 4 o'clock, and I'm thinking, they're going to say to me, I can't even empty my car because I've gone past 4 o'clock. So I said to the men, am I still allowed to empty? And they said, yeah, we really don't know what's going on. We don't know what we're supposed to do. We don't know if we're supposed to close at 4. We don't know if we're supposed to let the last car go in at 4. So obviously their communication, there's been a communication breakdown there. And of course, and then everybody else in that queue is still saying, are we going to be able to get rid of our rubbish, aren't we? Is it just a trial run today? You know, what's happening? You know, so we need very clear communication. I mean, I was aware it was 4 o'clock, that's why I thought I wouldn't have been able to get rid of my rubbish, but luckily I did. So, you know, there's still things to be, you know, there is still things to be worked on. It does mention in there also about the family hubs, but obviously the family hubs aren't open yet. So communication maybe on when they're going to be opening, and you know, and in what areas. When the online community hubs are going to come in, and again, where they're going to be, what areas, what times and things like that. So maybe some forward planning would be good as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much. I mean, before we plan, you know, an awful lot. I did just want to pick up on one point around Daventry. At the outset of my comments, I did say about the message from, I didn't say the name, and the message from a popular opticians, which is, don't come to us, we'll come to you. So you don't necessarily need a building. So I don't accept that people in Daventry haven't had that service. We've been to Southwood Community Centre, but I think we've been to various parish councils. I know Councillor Alan Sharper was pleased that we've gone over to see his parish council, and I think as Councillor Squires referenced, they've gone down really well. So the option is that we will come to you. So that's my message. We will come to you. You don't need to come to Northampton. We'll come to you. The dates are published on the website. And as I say, the last one I think I see there was at some point in time we was at Southwood Community Centre. So we go to all of these places and we'll continue to go to them.
Thank you, Councillor Hallam. Any further comments from members of the cabinet? No, in which case, should executive.
Just a quick one, the family helps, I don't know if you noticed, but downstairs opened this weekend. Soft launch, we put comms out on, and we've been sort of communicating, about nearly 300, or just under 206 people attended. It's now open for classes and everything else, so it's a really successful launch on that one. Hopeful, or most hopeful, CCS, we'll see the one opening Daventry and one intentional Northampton. We hope 3 months, maybe 6 months, but we're well on the way. But we will obviously publish poster elections and everything, the kind of the full list with all the hubs that we've got. But very ambitious plans. I just wanted to reassure you of that. And great first day opening downstairs.
Councillor Bacon.
Sorry.
Obviously, we have put out communications about the hub that was opening at the weekend. We've also put communications out about the online offer, but I've just had a word with Sally, and we think we need to obviously do that every day in order to make sure people see it, because that has been an offer that's been open for some time, the online offer. So we need to do more communication on that, obviously, because it's generally we put a press release out and then it's on social media. But I guess if you don't see it when it shows up, then you've missed it. But we'll do more because it is available.
Councillor Hallam.
This is just.
You're getting ready for the next item. So the recommendations are before cabinet at paragraph 3. We all agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. The last on the agenda then is the housing IT system. This is the Councillor Hallam.
Thank you. First, I apologise that this paper was not issued with the main pack, as I wanted to ask some more questions. Not on the recommendations of this paper, which is about the technical environment of funds within the HRA account. But at our previous cabinet decision, the officers were to go out for soft market testing, and I've not been able to catch up on that process. I now have time to ask questions about the system and also see a demo of the preferred IT package. The system used at the moment was inherited from Northampton Borough Council. It was purchased in 2006 and will cease to be supported by Capita in March 2027. Hence the urgency to deal with this issue. The proposed system will bring all the different fragmented and outdated data associated with our housing function together. The data allows us to be compliant with the social housing regulator. It will also allow some data cleansing as the data is uploaded into the new system. It will cover the status of the property, repairs, the tenancy, the complaints system and finance. Since the information is cloud-based, it will also allow multiple points of access. And this was important. I wanted to check that this was the case, because when I'd gone out to look at some of the properties with MPH, we were looking at a void property, and I asked, is the one next door, which was looking a bit dilapidated, is that an MPH property? And the officer from MPH couldn't tell me until he went back to the office. With this new system, they'll be able to see on their phone or iPad whilst they're actually out and about, which is going to be a great asset, I think. It's also been checked with other authorities who use the system, and I'm very happy that this is going to be, the future, give a lot of, make everything quicker, slicker, and there'll be a lot of, different points of access. And from what I've seen of the demo, will be a brilliant step forward. So I have no, problem with, supporting this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Herring. Three speakers on this item, councillors Purser, Hollander and Young.
Well, this, actually, this is a very important paper because it really is the basis on communication between officers, the system, knowing what we're doing, and so it is actually very important. But it is kind of a Morecambe and Wise paper that we've got here, in terms of budgets, because all the budgets are there, but not necessarily in the right order, as Eric Morecambe would have said. So, but I suppose the point I just want to pick up is the fact that we're changing the funding from the capital side of the budget to the revenue side of the budget. And now Malcolm's great skill has been to move things from the revenue to the capital, because that sorts out some of our problems. So I'm just really wanting to ask, given our revenue budget, the HRA is very tight, this is a substantial chunk of money, was it £3 million, that has got to be found within the revenue budget. What's the price of that? What are we not able to do because we're having to pay for this out of the revenue side of the budget?
Thank you, Bob. Councillor Hollander, and then Councillor Lambert also passes. So we'll go to the Section 151 officer for a response on the technical query on budgets.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So there's a technical adjustment doing it. I think the question from Councillor Purser is a really valid one. When you have system change, you normally charge it to capital. Because this is a cloud project, the regulation don't allow us to do that. So to change the service charge that into revenue, we have an option, and therefore we have to find a funding for that. Within the HRA, we have a contribution to capital, a revenue contribution to capital. So instead of making that revenue contribution to capital, we will use that to fund this cost, which is now having to be funded through revenue. So that's the technical reason for that. And that's what's involved in the solution.
Thank you, Martin. Councillor Herring, back to you. If there was anything else that you want to pick up on?
No, and I think thank Martin Henry for that explanation. But as my understanding is, this is all actually allowed for in the budget, and there is no problem in that. I just wanted to make sure that what we were getting was suitable, and I'm very happy to go ahead with the recommendation. I think it would be a great improvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Herring. The recommendation is purely to delegate authority to the finance to buy the budgets. We can go ahead with the scheme as you described, Councillor Herring. Is Cabinet agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. That was our last item of business. Therefore, I close the meeting. Thank you.